because Rich Dad said real estate is wealth. Real estate. Okay. My wife in 1989 started out with one rental unit. Now she has 1,400. And we have two houses, one house in Arizona, one house in Hawaii.
Robert Kiyosaki is a strong advocate of real estate investing in the US. Why does Mr. Kiyosaki think that the US is a great place for real estate investing? Let's dive into that in this episode. Before we start, we want to clarify that while we are doing comparisons of property investment between countries, we are by no means taking a stab at any country. Each country has its own pros and cons, such as high appreciation or high cash flow, different laws and regulations. In our analysis, we prioritize generating consistent income from rentals for the purpose of creating passive income. First, in order to invest for cash flow, being able to rent out the property is the most important consideration. Let's take a look at the top 10 countries with the highest percentage of population renting. This indicates high rent demand. The first 5 countries, Switzerland, Hong Kong, Germany, South Korea, and Australia, have relatively high property price to rent ratio, translating to gross rental yield of no more than 3%. New Zealand properties are also a little on the pricey side. Japan residentials are interesting. They do produce decent rental yields, but the nation as a whole has experienced anemic economic growth and sluggish property price appreciation. For Denmark, foreigners are not allowed to buy real estate as an investment. Unless you have a citizenship in Denmark, this is not a consideration. That leaves us with UK and US with about 36% renters. That means that for every 10 people you see, 3 to 4 of them are renters. In our opinion, the US does have a slight advantage over the UK in terms of property investing, which we may cover in other episodes. You might say, hey, this is a snapshot of the current renters' demand, but how is it like in the past? Let's take a look at US home ownership trend from 1990 to today. You can see that the home ownership ratio has been pretty much steady over the past 30 years at around 65%, bouncing between 63% and 69%. It's important to invest in a country like this with a proven track record of constant rent demand. The next benefit of the US is that properties are affordable, with matchable rents meeting the 1% rule. You would be able to find monthly rent that is about 1% of the property purchase price. This translates to a gross rental yield of about 12%. As investment properties are more affordable, the mortgage payments are also relatively cheaper. This allows the rent to be usually more than the mortgage and other expenses every month, generating positive cash flow. The next point is most people's favorite, appreciation. Look at this chart showing 60 years of data all the way from 1963. Property prices in the US have been on the uptrend, estimated at 7% compounded annual growth rate, or CAGR for short. There was a dip in 2008 due to the great financial crisis, but as you can see, the home prices have already recovered. Other than increasing your equity, if you watch our previous video on the BRRRR strategy, you understand how appreciation can enable you to cash out refinance more than what you put in, creating infinite ROI. Some of you may be thinking, what about old leasehold properties that are near the expiry of their lease? Well, this is another plus point of the US. Most residential houses have no lease. You can keep them forever, the land is yours, while they appreciate year after year. Just a disclaimer, like any other country, not every single property in the US will appreciate in value. You have to buy in the right place. The housing market in the United States is very fragmented. You have the high appreciation markets, which are typically near the coastal areas like New York and California. The properties here are costlier and likely do not meet the 1% rule, but they appreciate significantly year after year. New York and California have seen more than 5% compounded annual growth rate over the past 50 years. Then, you have the high cash flow markets, typically situated in the Midwest areas like Iowa, Indiana, and Michigan. The properties here see appreciation of about 3% to 4% CAGR. While they do not see the same kind of appreciation as the coastal market, they are usually more affordable, meeting the 1% rule and generating positive cash flow. The next advantage of investing in the US is its investor-friendly tax system. In the eyes of the US tax authority, which is the Internal Revenue Service, or IRS for short, you can depreciate most tangible properties, such as the building cost of a new roof or the cost to build a new fixture like a shed or deck. This means that you can take a portion of the cost of these things and deduct them from your taxable income, when in fact, property values are actually appreciating every year. Your equity is actually growing even though you can clock depreciation loss to the IRS to reduce your income taxes. For example, the IRS states that buildings depreciate over 27.5 years. So if you had purchased a property with a building value of $100,000, every year you can deduct $100,000 divided by 27.5 years, which gives you $3,600. You will get this 3.6k deduction from your taxable income. On top of that, you can defer capital gain tax and eventually eliminate it via the step-up basis when you hand over the properties to your next generation. What is capital gain tax? If you sell a property, the gains you earn are taxable, the amount varying depending on country and circumstances. In the US, it can be up to 20% or 30% of the gains earned. This is a lot of money. The IRS lets investors defer capital gain taxes if the money from the sale of one property goes into another investment property. The accumulated capital gain taxes will be eliminated the day you grow old and pass on, leaving your properties for your next generation. This is called the step-up basis. If you do ever plan to pay for your capital gain tax in the future, say when you don't want to buy or fix up any more investment properties, inflation will reduce the cost of your tax. Today over the years, since the same $10 today is worth much less in the future, so it will still be good to defer these taxes as long as possible. This is the IRS way to incentivize private money from investors rather than using the government's money to revitalize areas. And here's a whole bunch of other benefits of real estate investing in the US. No stamp duty, no taxes on additional properties, no limit on the number of properties you can own, no restrictions on buying or selling for foreigners. Even as a foreigner, you have equal buying and selling rights as US citizens, unlike countries like Australia, where foreigners who own Australia property can only sell to the locals. And a very big advantage here, loans in US can have fixed interest rates for 30 years, so you don't need to worry about rising interest rates. And if interest rates go down in the future, you can do a refinance to the lower rates. This is a classic tale of heads I win, tails you lose. Some countries impose a ceiling on the borrower's age to ensure that they can outlive their loan term. But there is no borrowing age ceiling for the US, since the Equal Credit Opportunity Act prohibits lenders from blocking or discouraging anyone from a mortgage based on age. Some countries also require borrowers to top up the value of their collateral if the property value falls below the loan terms. But this top up is not required in the US. In short, debts used to buy US rentals cannot be margin called. So in summary, we are not saying that the other countries are bad investment destinations, but that US renters could be better due to its high rent demand. It can generate positive cash flow, investor-friendly tax system where you can pay low or no taxes, no stamp duty, no taxes on additional properties, no restrictions for foreigners, no limit to number of properties you can buy, good loan terms. What else can you ask for? Some of you are probably thinking, what happens if you are not in the US? What are the risks involved of being remote? Let's explore how to manage the risk in the next video. If you like our content, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe. We would love to hear from you, so do leave a comment down below. So till next time.